everyone, I'm Lizzie and welcome back to my channel, Lizzie on Locale. Today I wanted to do a little bit of a story time about why I lived abroad, why I came back, and what I was doing. A little bit of background knowledge of me. I used to be a teacher. I love teaching. I especially loved working with younger grade levels, so kindergarten, first grade, second to third grade were also age groups I was interested in teaching, and I absolutely loved teaching. But after 5 years of teaching in the United States, I realized I really wanted to teach abroad. The first time that I ever went abroad, I was 12 years old for my cousin's wedding. He got married on the Isle of Wight, and it was the first time that I ever got to go abroad. So we got to travel to London and Paris, which, okay, those are probably two of the most common places that people go on their first experience abroad. But for me, I was hooked. I loved everything about traveling, from the different foods, the different sights, the different sounds, and even the different languages. And from then on, I knew that I really wanted to live abroad. When I finally made the decision to go, I ended up looking at a website called Search Associates. The website had lots of different teaching jobs for anyone looking to teach abroad. Now, before I continue, I would like to make a stipulation here. I was not teaching English abroad, I was teaching. The difference between those two statements is that if you are teaching English abroad, that means you are only teaching English. So you might have a large array of abilities in terms of ages that you might be teaching, and you're teaching people the English language. What I wanted to do was just be a teacher in a foreign country. So I ended up teaching English, math, science, social studies, all of the main topics that you might get in a typical American school, but in a foreign country. So Search Associates allowed me to look at tons of different schools in many different countries. I applied to schools that were in Fiji, I applied to schools in Asia, I applied to a school in Italy, kind of all over the place, pretty much anywhere that I could get a job. In the end, I got a job offer from a school in Hanover, Germany, and that is where I ended up. Hanover is in the northern part of Germany. The closest major city to it would be Hamburg. But Hanover is, in my opinion, one of the most underrated cities in all of Germany. It is gorgeous, first of all. Second of all, it's not too big, so you can still see a lot of the old town as well as newer construction, but you still get that German feel. It's also the perfect city to learn German for two reasons. One, because most people don't actually speak English, which both made it great and difficult living there. But also the language that they speak, or the vernacular that they use, and the way that they pronounce words is their more original way that you would hear the German language. I can kind of compare it to people living in the north versus people living in the south here in the US. People in the south have that southern accent, but people in the north, minus maybe a Boston and New York accent, have the sounds that you might hear on the news. The way that they pronounce words is the traditional way of saying things. So living in Hanover allowed me to hear and learn German in the traditional way that it was spoken. I taught there for 2 years at a private international bilingual school. That meant that some of the students spoke English because they might have come from a country that speaks it. But the majority of my students were actually German, and they didn't speak any English. I was working with students that were between the ages of 5 and 7. And so I really was the first person in a lot of cases that was speaking English to them all the time. I loved the experience, but around December of 2019, I decided officially that I was going to move back to the United States. This is for two reasons. The first was that I was getting a little bit homesick. Although I was going home for major holidays like Christmas and then in the summer, I was missing a lot of my family and friends and people that were here. On top of that, I also was starting to get a little burnt out as a teacher. I was realizing that my passion just wasn't there anymore. I was comparing myself to what I was like several years ago as a teacher, and also what other teachers were doing in the US or in other places that were making their classrooms really fun and energetic and awesome. And then I was looking at what I was doing, and it was not the same standard. So ultimately, I decided that I needed a break from teaching and I wanted to move back home. When I made that decision, I thought it was a great idea until the pandemic hit. So flash forward several months later, and I'm now back in the United States. So I moved back here in August, and I thought that I would just be able to try a new job, not necessarily in teaching, but in something else, and be good to go. But, life happens, things get in the way, and so I'm here back in the United States, but I'm trying to figure out what it is I exactly want to do. If you would like to know more about my experience in Germany, maybe did I ever learn German, what were my favorite things to do, places I visited, maybe how I did or did not get a visa, let me know in the comments below, and I would love to answer your questions. So, thanks for listening, and I'll check you next time. Bye!